But I think it's also important to, like, when you ask, like, what I want people to know from this is, it's interesting because even in the E60 interviews and doing interviews since the release, I keep on trying to find like earth-shattering quotes and life-changing advice and how to word these things to make it click with someone. But I've been in those shoes where I've heard like pretty inspiring things, and because I was so lost, I was like closed off where I wouldn't even accept them. So I always come back to just talk to someone, just people who are struggling, who feel anything similar to what I was going through, self-hate, hopelessness, whatever. Just talk to someone, like literally anybody. It doesn't need to be a professional setting. It doesn't need to be a family member, like someone. But if you're lucky enough to have a family member, talk to them. If you're lucky enough to be able to set up an appointment to see a therapist, put the ego to the side and just talk to someone. And I promise you it'll save your life.
Yeah, there's so many, kids that are out there that, specifically in high school here in Texas where we are, we've had so much, suicide's it's just been a big part of the last few years, and it's just like it's gotten bigger and bigger, specifically through COVID and all. And your message and your ability to stand here, like Tyler said, and have these conversations, man, are inspiring. Really are, because there's so many kids and adults that are out there that are battling depression. And like you said, your message is just talk, communicate, have that conversation. And that's not the end all, but that's a start.
Yeah, it's the best starting point.
Yeah.
It's strong. It is seriously the strongest thing you can do. You can't pour from an empty cup. So if you're trying to take care of people around you, if you're trying to take care of yourself, but you don't put the work in, you can't pour yourself into yourself. Like, you can't do it from an empty cup. So having a little bit of a fuel tank from some of these practices of self-love and putting the ego to the side, which is a big one. I still struggle with that big time today. And that was the biggest thing that was holding me back before. I just had this sense of like what you're supposed to do, what life's really like. Like, no, it's supposed to be hard. If it was easy, everyone would do it, which is true to a sense, but there's also a balance of not doing it to a level where you're completely tearing yourself down. So put the ego to the side, practice some self-love, and do some of the things that feel really corny at first, but eventually you'll get to a point where you'll feel weird not doing them.
Right. I think the idea of vulnerability, you mentioned earlier that your brother, it was really encouraging to you for your brother to admit, hey, I need to go talk to somebody, and think about the impact you can make to yourself and to others around you if you are vulnerable and do have those conversations. I just think about, depression is like you mentioned, oh, that's weak, right? Like that's weakness. Don't address that. But the reality is Drew, as you're talking, 95% of the thoughts that were going through your head in high school, I've had those same thoughts. Yeah. Literally standing on the sideline, national anthem, I'm thinking, okay, do I look like a football player standing next to Tyron Smith? Do I belong here? Do I this? Like, I have had those thoughts my entire life going through my head. And, I was lucky to have people that I could have those conversations with. But for so long, you have to be tough and you have to be this warrior that doesn't have any weakness. And I think that couldn't be further from the truth. I think the true warriors are the ones that can have these conversations right now. Yeah. And share the things that you struggle with.
The balance is like, there's times where toughness calls, but there's also a lot of times that vulnerability calls, and being real with yourself and knowing that you can help yourself here. And like I said, it's a total strength. Like, I kind of described it a couple of times where, like, for me, it's baseball is easy to talk about, but if my teammate is able to hit 50 home runs in a season, that's like one of the most impressive things. That's a skill set. Because not everyone is able to do it at that time. So in the same way, if someone that reaches out for help compared to like the rest of the room who feels it's uncomfortable to reach out, that person is able to do something that not a lot of other people are able to do. Really good, Why isn't that considered a skill set and a strength?
Yeah.
So, and you can look at it a bunch of different ways in comparison with, like, going to the gym. If you mention to one of your coworkers, your teammates, I just ran 5 miles this morning, everyone's going to say like, oh man, congrats. Like, good for you. That's awesome. I wish I could have done that this morning or whatever. If you come in and say the same thing, I just went and I just did a mental practice today, they'd probably say, oh, that's great too. But as soon as you mention, yeah, my mental practice was therapy, I feel like there's like almost like a hesitation, like, oh, is something like, okay. But I want to get it to the point where it's like talked about in the same like casual way as going to the gym. Like, yeah, I got to go to the gym today, so I can't come today. Same way as I can't come tonight. I have a therapy session with my therapist. Like, be strong with it and be confident in it, because like I said, you're helping yourself. And once you help yourself, you're able to help the people around you, which is what a lot of people really want. They want to be able to help other people around them. So the moment you decide to take care of yourself and help yourself, it bleeds into your relationships, your interactions with whoever, and you start to end up taking care of other people by leading by example.